Right now, Benghazi blowback after the hearings this week. New information showing the administration may, and I stress the word may, have been manipulating messaging after the attacks. Is this the bombshell the GOP has been begging for? Or is this just politics here playing around after a terror attack? And next, stop and frisk. Much watched federal trial has already changed the way the NYPD handles its street stops, at least on paper. But is it also changing the city itself? We're going to speak with a journalist who says yes to both. And later, hail to the Washington insert team name here. Is a term like the Redskins, or for that matter, Indians or Braves, offensive? Well, I guess it depends on who you ask. We're going to get into whether or not it's political correctness or just the team's legacy. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French and TJIF. We have all that this evening, plus the impact of low pay on workers coming out of government contractors, and our latest installment of our weekly debate series, New York, New York, where Mr. Brodsky and Mr. Cahill go at it, and trust me, they delivered again today. But let's start with Benghazi and new blowback following that emotional day of testimony on Capitol Hill Wednesday.
None of us should ever again experience what we went through in Tripoli and Benghazi.
How did the personnel react to being told to stand down?
They were furious.
That the testimony of a longtime State Department official, as I said earlier this week. And now a new report is asking questions about the administration's talking points in the days after the Benghazi attack. Now let's get the details again from our senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman. And listen, for those who are looking for something, this certainly gave it to them. And for those who said this is much ado about nothing, they took a pause.
They did, Rich, but these talking points that we're focused on, those were the basis for the administration's public statements in the days after the Benghazi attacks, including for UN Ambassador Susan Rice, who used those points when she blamed the attack on local protesters the Sunday after Benghazi. ABC reporting the talking points were revised a dozen times with references to an al-Qaeda group and CIA warnings apparently removed. And in one email, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's spokeswoman noted the points, quote, could be abused by members of Congress to beat up the State Department for not paying attention to warnings. She added, quote, why would we want to feed that? Even before that report, Republicans were ramping up pressure on the White House, calling on the State Department to release emails they say will show officials knew more than they were saying publicly.
You know, last November, the president said that, and I'll quote, would be happy to cooperate with the Congress in any way the Congress wants. Well, this is his chance to show his cooperation so that we can get to the truth of what happened in Benghazi.
The White House insisting today that neither the hearing nor that report offered any new information about the attacks or an indication that the administration acted improperly. They and others noting the Republican efforts on Benghazi come with an agenda. The Times editorial page today noting, quote, common sense and good judgment have long given way to conspiracy mongering and a relentless effort to discredit President Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton, adding the hearing did not prove anything like an administration cover-up or other hysterical allegations of crimes equal to Watergate that some Republicans have alleged. Rich?
Thank you very much, Andrew. In fact, that editorial also talks about with what's going on in Libya right now. Look what we're focusing on as it relates to Benghazi. All right, let's bring our panel on this. We're very happy to be joined by New York State Senator George Latimer. We'll be talking about a bunch of things, including your favorite subject, Albany, this week. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, who not only has quite a bit to say about Albany, but also stop and frisk. We'll be talking about later this hour. And Andrew Whitman, who you've already met. And Andrew, I'm going to start with you. Listen, that email, first of all, why are people still so idiotic, even at governmental levels, that they don't realize you send an email, you got a permanent, I mean, the idea to put on paper, the idea we got to craft message, we got to work on messaging right now, moronic. That being said, this story is not going to go away as much as I think the administration thought it was, maybe at the beginning of the week.
Well, yeah, the email, for those who think that there's something to Benghazi that the administration did wrong, those emails indicate that they were planning the messaging, crafting their words, and trying to allay any indication of blame or that the administration somehow dropped the ball.
And that the administration had something to worry about. I think that's the biggest fear it articulates.
Right, and because that hasn't been as widely disclosed or as widely public up until now, they think that that is something new to this story. And for those who think that there's not much to the Benghazi story or that it's been overblown, the emails are talking about communications and how the messaging is going to go out. This was not official testimony. This wasn't, under oath or anything like that. So there appears, at least on the face, to be some room for both sides to interpret these developments to favor their own sides.
Now, before I get into political consequences, Dominic, it just had the sense that, hey, listen, the Senate already had their investigation on this, or at least their hearings. Nothing much came out of it. Now the House is doing this, and you say, oh, wait a second now. This thing's not going away anytime soon. So while we have gun control on the agenda, in theory at least, some say it'll be resurrected. Immigration, everybody thinks or says they think they want to get done before summer. I can go through a whole bunch of other stuff. Everything's going to take a backseat because this has been what some folks in Washington have been dying for, and what Fox News, I'm sure, is doing cartwheels over. This is going to dominate the news cycle for a little while longer, isn't it?
This is not a smoking gun, but it says that there were some serious problems with this. Again, Richard, we have to stop and think about what was going on. A president with solid foreign policy credentials in the middle of a re-election battle, and Republicans smelled blood in the water. They thought, we now know that it's not accurate, but they thought that Mitt Romney had a real shot at the White House. And so this is also about now, but this is also very much so about 2016. As it stands right now, the Republicans have no choice except to give Hillary Clinton the keys to the White House. And they are sensing blood in the water. They can damage Obama, and they can tar Hillary Clinton with this. And this is exactly what they're doing, because this will be campaign issue number one for Hillary.
And I don't even think we got to wait till 2016. To your point, Dominic, take a look. This is already out. Who's this by, Andrew? The Crossroads, right? Yeah. We remember those folks from the last election cycle. They've got this ad that's out there. You can see some of the images as we talk here. And you've got other politicos that are weighing in as well. The Crossroads ad here, if you can roll at any time, Ralph. To that point, this is the Benghazi thing, George, that they bring up here. There's even, you got Rand Paul this week. He sent out a tweet talking about Benghazi and talking about Hillary Clinton there, where he uses in this ad saying Benghazi proves Hillary could never or should never hold high office again. Now, it's Rand Paul, okay, who doesn't believe blacks and whites should have to sit at the same counter if the restaurant doesn't want to. Okay, so let's take that with a grain of salt. But my point is, I really didn't think Benghazi was going to come up again after the election. Yeah. Once again, I'm wrong. How long of a shelf life do you think this issue has?
Well, it has a shelf life for a while, but we're so far in front of the presidential electoral process that there's going to be other issues that are going to wind up becoming more important. So for the moment, it's the dialogue. Look, I think we understand we're in 24/7 politics. An election no longer ends any political cycle. It is now the ongoing cycle that never ends. It's worse in Washington. There are elements of it in Albany and White Plains and other levels of government. But did the administration act competently in the matter of Benghazi? No. How much did people know, and when did they know it? Was there a criminality? I don't think so. Was there some level of incompetence and lack of advanced preparation? Yes. Is that a disqualifying factor for Hillary Clinton? No, but it is a factor in evaluating her. But the bottom line is this is 24/7 politics, and it's not going to stop. When Benghazi runs out of steam, there'll be another similar type issue of some sort that will be about how you're incompetent and you need to be thrown out of office and put us in.
There's another aspect politically that I think people need to be on the lookout for, and that is, as long as the questions remain out there, you're going to start to hear calls for a special prosecutor. And once a special prosecutor gets involved with subpoena power, then all of a sudden we're back in the Lulu land that we were in the late 90s, where you can get an investigator who has subpoena power on one topic and investigate about any number of other topics. And so if you get to a special prosecutor, that's pretty much the effective end of the Obama administration, because they'll be playing so much defense all the time that, we talk about lame duck status.
What's funny about this, if you think back to it, and again, facts get in the way of a good story, so no one's going to care about this, but we just went over yesterday. We were talking about how they couldn't get the EPA commissioner confirmed. You couldn't get the ATF head of it. I mean, stuff like protecting our water, making sure that, we actually go after bad guys, all those things, right? Well, one of the things is they cut the funding, Republicans did, to actually embassy security. The president put forward a budget, they cut the number to that. And the hypocrisy that's coming out right now that, oh my God, how could you leave these embassies so understaffed and everything else? I mean, I've had it up to here with some of the phonies that are now talking out of the other side of their mouth. That said, administration, a Susan Rice Sunday morning talk show, that's the only thing that people are going to remember right now about this. And I think the administration always has done a pretty good job of getting out ahead of stuff. This was one incident where they didn't. I don't think it's a cover-up. Nobody has any evidence to suggest it is, but it just feeds those conspiracy theorists who say there's got to be more. And I think in this case, the administration can blame itself a little bit for letting this thing perpetuate itself.
But Richard, the next step in this chess match called Benghazi, pretty soon the Obama White House is going to claim executive privilege to shut all of this down in terms of these email contacts. And that's going to put Republicans in a bind, because when President Bush claimed executive privilege on a lot of issues to shut things down, they supported it. So now, are you going to be a hypocrite, House Republicans, and demand that this president go along in the way? So it's going to be interesting.
I definitely will here, and
Richard, one point if I'd like to make quickly. I think that what's missing here is that the middle is turning off to all of this. The middle is tired of Democrats in the White House and some Democrats in the Senate, etc. They think the whole game is rigged. They're going click. And that's the biggest damage here, more so than Benghazi and anything else.
That's a valid point.
We got a lot of stuff that we need to do in Washington. Right. Obviously, every day we're doing this, we're not. Okay, we take a quick break. But when we come back, it's an issue we focus a lot on this program, and Dominic has covered quite extensively down in Lower New York at the courthouse, where the NYPD's policy of stop and frisk is on trial right now. But we talked to an author who says it's not just about what's the trial here. Is it changing the actual city? Well, when we come back, we'll be speaking with that reporter, and we'll talk about stop and frisk. Stay with us.